Hello and welcome to Post Popcorn Picks, the podcast where we at the Puyallup Post discuss the newest Hollywood hits. I'm your host, Damian Bamford, and today I'm joined by...
James McCraw.
And today we are going to be doing a little review of Thor 3 Ragnarok. We're going to start with kind of a spoiler-free section, and then we'll do like a warning to you guys of when to stop listening if you don't want spoilers, or you can listen all the way through. So let's get started with it. Thor 3 Ragnarok was directed by Taika Waititi, who is, what would you say he's known for?
In cult sectors, probably What We Do in the Shadows. But I know he's done some other films that I don't know, because I haven't seen, so...
He directed the Flight of the Conchords HBO series, which
Okay.
is one of my favorite TV shows.
Okay.
It's just very deadpan. New Zealand has this very specific kind of humor that's very deadpan and really polite. And you can definitely see that reflected in this movie.
Yeah, for sure.
How do you think the actors did? If we want to go through a list of those guys real quick.
I could talk for hours about Jeff Goldblum, but the movie was not about him. Obviously, Chris Hemsworth returned as Thor, and Tom Hiddleston returned as Loki. And this is like the 5th time Hemsworth has played Thor or something like that in the last 10 years or so. So I think that's like a second skin to him, and Tom Hiddleston's done Loki like 4 times now, and you can tell that he's been able to do evolutions of the character to almost make you care about Loki, but you still want to hate him because he's Loki.
Right. Loki is very beloved, or Tom Hiddleston is very beloved as Loki. What about Chris Hemsworth? How do you think he did as Thor this time?
I think he had more fun playing Thor this time as he has in other movies, and I don't know if that's because of the atmosphere of the director or this story. Even though the subject matter is darker, the overall tone was a lot more lighthearted, and honestly I like the Thor movies better without Natalie Portman.
I agree.
And I know a lot of people probably would give me slack about that, but I think they're better without Jane Foster.
I thought Thor 2 was really, really rough.
Very rough. Probably one of the weakest of the Marvel movies.
Yeah, and she was kind of front and center in that one.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because I like Natalie Portman. I
do too. I mean, she was one of my first crushes because of Star Wars. But
Of course.
Yeah.
What'd you think of one of the new female role, Tessa Thompson as the Valkyrie?
Oh, she's my second favorite Marvel character now.
She was rad.
I'm not going to lie. She's definitely up there with Bucky Barnes as my favorite MCU characters.
I've been seeing her compared to a lot as the Han Solo of this movie. In the movie, she is kind of this like angry, kind of alcoholic character who does have a heart of gold.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, me too.
I like that analogy. You learn in the movie, you know, her history a little bit and why she's on the planet and why she spends her days drinking, and it makes sense. You sympathize for her as a character. And I love how, like, once Thor figures out who she is, he, like, totally fanboys over her because of who she is. And I really enjoy the fact that the Valkyries were so revered in Norse mythology, and they were able to bring that to the table.
What about Mark Ruffalo playing the Hulk / Bruce Banner? Honestly, he was kind of my favorite character in this whole movie.
Was he?
Yeah.
I liked him better as Hulk than as Banner in this movie. I mean, they kind of explain the whole Hulk-Banner connection a little bit more in this, and, you know, it's the first time that we've seen Banner since the end of Age of Ultron, so a lot of MCU holes kind of get filled. But I like the slightly more intellectual Hulk. He didn't seem such as brutish as usual.
Well, he seemed like he's been Hulk for such a long time, he's kind of gotten used to being Hulk, and he can communicate with people as the Hulk now. Like, they in the movie, they have, like, very childish arguments.
Yeah, between him and Thor, yeah.
And it's funny, because Thor is himself kind of a child, too, in every movie he's in. And in actual Norse mythology, he's just kind of he's really immature.
Yeah. And I liked the connection that Hulk had with Valkyrie in the movie, how they were like buddies on the planet, and how they would train together so that Hulk could stay the champion, and I thought that was really cool.
I never really realized that Odin was played by Anthony Hopkins. And I know that sounds dumb, but I only recently discovered Anthony Hopkins as an actor because I watched Westworld.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you don't know Anthony
No, I've
Hopkins
just
as
not-
Hannibal Lecter?
I've never seen Silence of the Lambs.
Okay.
For a person who wants to do a movie, I've like seen 3 movies. So
And that's funny because I've always known Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter. I haven't seen Westworld, so I know he was in that. I was always like super excited when a Thor movie came out because of Anthony Hopkins being, Odin. I don't want to give too much away right now, but I don't like how they tied up that storyline.
right. We'll get to that. a
Yeah,
little
I know
bit.
we'll get to that later, but
So, spoiler free, would you recommend this movie to anyone? And like, how would you rank it in terms of Marvel movies?
in terms of Marvel movies, it's definitely in my top 5. The problem with it being like the concluding chapter of the Thor trilogy is there's a little bit of continuity that bogs the story down. So I don't think you could go into it without seeing any of the other Marvel movies and not be a little bit confused. But I mean, it's definitely a great popcorn film.
Mm-hmm.
It visually is stunning. I mean, the acting is good. I mean, it's a superhero movie, so they get great actors to have fun.
Right. I think the dialogue in this movie the dialogue was very uncharacteristic of the other Marvel movies because it was written by he didn't write the movie, but he directed it, so he has this very clear style of comedy.
Yeah.
And there are scenes where like Banner and Thor are being like very sarcastic or playful with each other.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, it definitely had a lot more humor than the other two Thor movies for sure.
Yeah. I thought Spider-Man Homecoming was really hilarious, but this one topped it.
It topped it for sure, yeah. Out of the 3 Marvel movies that came out this year, this one was definitely my favorite.
Here's a thought. Do you feel like they're trying to counter a little more of DC's serious tone by doing a more comedic tone? Because that's what it seems like to me. Because DC is really serious.
Really serious. I mean, that's a good question. I would have to say yes. Because, I mean, all 3 Marvel movies that came out this year were on the lighter side of tone and definitely more humorous. Whereas, yeah, I mean, Batman vs. Superman and Suicide Squad were dark and brooding. And, Wonder Woman was a period piece. So I definitely see that. Yeah.
How do you feel about Justice League now that trailers are really coming out for that? Because it looks like they're trying to go for the funny thing too. At least in the trailers, it looked like they were trying to do the jokes in a superhero movie thing.
I'm very on the fence about Justice League. Zack Snyder had a family issue and he had to leave during post-production. And DC brought in Joss Whedon to do reshoots and stuff. And he's got a certain tone which you can see in his TV shows and in the Avengers movies he did, that he's more character-driven, lighthearted. So I don't know how much of the movie Joss Whedon changed, because I know the reshoot process was really extensive. So that'll be interesting to see, like, where the dark and gritty Zack Snyder stops and the fun, lighthearted Joss Whedon comes in. But, I mean, I'm really only going to see Justice League because of Gal Gadot. I mean,
Fair enough. I guess you have your reasons.
I got my reasons.
All right, so I think we've talked enough about background stuff. Now let's dig in and go right into spoilers for the plot. What's a good starting point? You want to start chronologically, or do you just want to kind of jump around a little bit?
I think it would make more sense to start chronologically.
Okay.
Because I felt like the first 25 minutes or so of the movie tied together the leftover plot from the first 2 Thor movies. Because, at the end of Thor 2, The Dark World, we find out that Loki's in charge of Asgard, and then it's like, well, where'd Odin go? And then at the end of Doctor Strange last year, they had the post-credit scene with Doctor Strange and Thor hanging out, having some drinks, and that kind of gave away that somehow Thor would end up in New York.
I kind of found it odd how this was the first in the movie. It seemed like this was the first time he was meeting Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of Doctor Strange, it was Thor and him hanging out. Was this a scene from that?
I think that was the scene. Yeah, I think because at the end of Doctor Strange, they're sitting around having the drinks, and they were talking about, why is he in New York? And then they cut to that in the beginning of Thor. after Thor comes back to Asgard with the trophy and realizes that, I think he knew, like, as soon as he got back to Asgard that it wasn't his dad, that it was Loki. And so I kind of felt like that whole first 20 minutes was almost forced.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like corporate synergy. Here's what you have to do, and then you can have fun for 2 hours. Because the whole Doctor Strange New York sequence didn't really fit with the rest of the film.
Well, it's like, before you play with it, you have to build it first, I guess.
Yeah. Because that whole thing felt forced, and then they find Odin, who wasn't even in New York. So then it's like, why do you go to New York, where Loki left him 2 years ago, and assume that he's still hanging out there? You know, because Odin wasn't even in New York, and then you see Odin for like 2 minutes, and then it's like, oh, by the way, you've got a sister, and she's evil. And guess what? She's coming for Asgard, and it's all Loki's fault. And then, boom.
So they find Odin in Norway, and then he does this like I'm gonna die, and then he disappears.
I'm gonna die, and then he disappears.
He turns into like glow dust.
I'm assuming that means he's dead.
Yeah, I mean that's the most Disney death possible.
Some magical mythology. Glow dust.
It's great. You don't have to pay for funeral services because he just floats off into the sky.
Yeah.
I don't know why. So Hela, the goddess of death, Hela in actual Norse mythology, it's Hel, but I guess they wanted to change it. So you know, it's also a kids movie.
That's the Marvelification of Hel.
Yeah.
She's been Hela in the comic books for decades.
So as soon as Odin dies, she just jumps out of a portal behind him, like, "Sup, I'm here now."
I'm here now. I think the best part of that is like the initial introduction of Cate Blanchett, because you could tell through the whole movie that she was just having so much fun with the role. I was just like, even my wife was all like, man, she's the best.
Loki freaks out, and Thor's like, let's fight her, and then she destroys Mjolnir, like Thor's hammer, right there on the spot.
Right there on the spot.
So it's kind of a way, it's a pretty heavy way, because Mjolnir's been in all the other movies. It's a very important item in the Marvel Universe, and she just comes along, destroys it instantly. So that kind of establishes, oh my gosh, this is a powerful character.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Loki freaks out, and then they try to go back to Asgard, and they bring her to Asgard.
Yeah, Loki opens up a portal to try and get them back to Asgard, and then Thor's like, no, she's gonna follow us, you idiot. And of course she follows them and shoots them out of the portal to go wherever they're floating to.
Right.
And Hela's the only one that ends up in Asgard.
We also didn't bring this up, but Heimdall, played by Idris Elba, is missing. He's absent.
He's absent because he's a traitor to the crown or whatever.
So what? Did
Loki
just banish him?
I think that was kind of the thing. Or I think my theory was that Heimdall was the only person that knew that Loki was Odin.
Right.
Because he's got that gift of like second sight. So I think Loki banished him and probably has been trying to kill him the whole time so that he didn't give away the secret. And so Heimdall's gone, and we meet Scourge, who's played by genre favorite Carl Urban, who's just this total ditz.
Isn't Carl Urban the Bones in the new Star Trek series?
He was Bones in the new Star Trek series. He was Judge Dredd in that very underrated Judge Dredd movie. His character's just this total attention-grabbing dolt.
Yeah, he's a brown noser. He's an opportunist.
Definitely an opportunist, which we find out after Hela shows up.
Oh yeah, he just instantly jumps on the Hela train.
And this is after I felt that the Warriors 3 didn't get their just desserts.
The Warriors 3?
Yeah. Because she automatically offs 2 of them.
Right.
And then the third one at least like goes out in a blaze of glory, but it's still like, you know, these guys hung out with Thor and were like his right-hand men, along with Lady Sif, who wasn't even in the movie.
They were pretty major characters.
Yeah, in the first 2, and then they're just like, we're just gonna kill them off, and I didn't like that.
You could also say that that's justification for how much of a bad guy that Hela is. But yeah, it does kind of just remove several characters without giving them... It doesn't feel justified.
Yeah. Hela shows up, she takes over Asgard pretty quick. We jump to where Thor ends up landing, which is the planet Sakaar.
Right. Sakaar, Kaar. That's hard to say.
Very hard to say.
Yeah, so he ends up on this junk planet where he ends up getting captured by the Marvel equivalent of Jawas, I guess. And then they all
junker people.
They all get killed when this mysterious woman shows up in a spaceship and captures Thor, and then brings him to the king of this world, the Grand Master, our good friend Jeff Goldblum.
Wonderful Jeff Goldblum. Man, oh man,
he is such an interesting actor. What a fascinating character.
That was another one of those roles where you could tell that he showed up, he put on this crazy costume and just had a good old time, you know.
In watching interviews, I saw that he came to set and he was like, basically, you just want me to play Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum, exactly.
Yeah, because he
can be yourself.
He has a very distinct character where he repronounces things. He ums, uhs, and he has these weird pauses. He never turns the direction you expect him to turn.
No, he doesn't.
It's wild. Comedy is in essence based on like expectations being shifted, and that's how he is as a person.
Mm-hmm. He just seems like that kind of guy that you just want to go and have drinks with and just hang out, you know. Probably super smart but super funny. It's just like Jeff Goldblum, man.
He was great. He played the Grand Master, who is the king of this kind of weird junk society, and they have gladiatorial combat.
Contest of Champions.
It's just like this anarchist kind of paradise thing where he's the king, and Thor kind of gets entered into this against his will, and he has to fight Hulk. That's the first battle he has.
Because of course he's Thor, so he's all like, "Give me your champion, I'll defeat your champion, I'm Thor," you know. Son of Odin. And of course Grandmaster's like, blah blah blah, whatever, you've got muscles, okay.
Right.
You know? I love the part where Thor's he's meeting the Grandmaster, and he's like, "I'm the god of thunder," and he tries doing the thunder thing, and it's just like little, like, almost like static electricity bolts come out of his head. He's like, "Oh, look at the sparkles!"
In the arena fight, it's like, careful, he shoots sparkles out of his hands.
Exactly.
It's so funny to see Thor kind of being put in this like child place now.
Yeah.
That's kind of the whole movie is Hulk and Thor are just children.
They're just, giant muscular children.
Also on this kind of arena setting, we meet Korg.
Korg!
Who is another combatant. He is played by Taika Waititi, the director of the movie. And you could tell because of his very polite New Zealand accent. Korg is... At first, when I saw him, I was like, okay, he's gonna be the comic relief character, which he totally is.
He totally is.
Thing. But it wasn't painful. He's just like this rock monster who's like really too overly polite.
Didn't you say like he tried to start a revolution or something, but he ran out of pamphlets? Wasn't there a joke about that?
That was a joke. He's just a very lovely character. He generates his own quotes, basically. He's really helpful to everyone. And he's like an arena fighter, but he's got like this really nice heart to him.
Yeah.
I like him a lot. Hulk and Thor fight each other, and the fight is rigged so Thor loses because of the shocky device that's still on his neck. The shocky device. Yeah. Then Thor and Hulk kind of argue for a little while because Hulk just wants to stay and fight in the arena.
Yeah, because they revere Hulk, you know, because he's the grand champion.
Yeah.
So they worship him like a god. And Hulk's like, "Yo, I got everything I need here."
He's beloved on this planet.
He's like, "Why would I want to go anywhere? Things are great for me."
But then, eventually, I think I went to the bathroom during this part. I didn't see how he convinced Hulk to escape.
Hulk tells Thor where the Quinjet is. And so he goes to the Quinjet to try and escape the planet, and he can't get the Quinjet started. And Hulk shows up on the Quinjet, but he tries destroying it because he doesn't want Thor to leave. And that's when, did you see the part where he turns on the projection of Black Widow?
Yeah.
And she starts saying her little, like, sun's going low thing from Avengers 2.
And then Hulk starts turning into Banner again.
He turns back into Banner, but yeah, Hulk ends up on the jet because he's trying to get Thor not to leave. That's how that started, and then Thor pushes a button and he turns back into Banner.
Banner's really freaked out because he's on this alien planet.
That, and we learned that he hasn't switched back to Banner from his Hulk phase since, like, the Battle of Sokovia in Avengers 2.
Like, that just happened for him. And now
so he's all confused because he's been Hulk for over 2 years. And so Banner's like, what the heck's going on?
They have to go get Loki because now they want to go back to Asgard. Loki's, like, tied up in somebody's apartment, isn't he?
Yeah, because Valkyrie...
Yeah, they get Valkyrie on board.
They get Valkyrie on board, and she takes them to Loki because she's got Loki tied up.
They form a team called the Revengers.
The Revengers. But they don't necessarily have to have the name.
No, keep the name. It's great.
So the four of them end up together, and Loki's finally like, well, I don't have much of a choice, so I'll take you to where the Grandmaster has all the ships. Right. Because Loki got in good with the Grandmaster when they were on Sakaar.
And they free all the other arena fighters,
and
too.
They free the arena fighters. So that's where we get to see Korg again.
Mm-hmm. And they start their own little revolution.
Revolution against the Grandmaster.
But it's kind of like nobody cares about the revolution because everyone is after Thor and Loki.
Yeah.
Yeah. They hop on a ship. Loki gets left behind. He was trying to trick Thor into staying behind, doing his normal Loki trickster, I'm pulling the wool over your eyes kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which, that kind of annoyed me a little bit. It's like, come on, character growth.
Yeah, it's classic Loki, and they've used it so much, that is kind of a bummer.
But they kind of make up for it later, a little bit. There's a point where he doesn't he makes the conscious choice not to steal the Tesseract, right? Or do we know he doesn't steal?
We don't know.
We don't know. Oh, geez.
I think that he does, but we'll get into that later.
Okay, we'll get to that. They escape the planet. They go through, quote, the Devil's Anus, which is a portal off of this planet. Which is a big garbage portal that just dumps trash from the sky all the time.
Which is like 12 warp jumps or something crazy like that. They make up some outrageous number.
Right. Well, because otherwise it would take like 1,000 years to travel there
to get
or
back
something.
To Asgard.
So they get to Asgard next, right?
Yeah, they make it back to Asgard. And then there's the big customary superhero fights supervillain. But then Thor comes to the realization that the only way to stop Hela is to destroy Asgard.
Right. So
there's no way they can do one without doing the other.
And in the battle, Thor loses an eye, and I guess him losing the eye is kind of a thing that's like, oh, it's not about the land, it's about the people.
It's about the people, because every time Thor has like a revelation of growth, they do like this jump to Odin, and like Anthony Hopkins has like wise words of wisdom for his son, you know? So every time Thor has to grow, he has to talk to his dead father, which is kind of cliche. But
right. Thor's like, okay, well, we have this crown thing in the vault that'll summon a giant demon.
That summons the giant demon that he killed at the beginning.
Hela starts freaking out about it, and the planet's going to be destroyed. But then Loki shows up, and he starts with the ship, with the Resistance movie, with Korg.
Korg and the Resistance.
And Loki shows up, and his arms are out, and he's like in a Jesus pose.
I know, he's like,
your savior has arrived. It's fantastic.
So they're clearing the civilians off Asgard, and then Thor's like, hey, I need you to go get the head of whatever that I killed at the beginning, and I need you to put it in the internal flame, which, you know, Dad's been hiding deep underneath the castle for millennia.
Oh, we also learned the Infinity Gauntlet in that room, too, is
a fake.
It's fake. Yeah.
But yet they still have the Tesseract.
Right. So Loki's a good guy now, basically.
Basically.
He doesn't seem like he's trying to take over the world anymore.
I don't think so. I think Loki's trying to be good. But, you know, Thor sends him to the throne room to reignite this evil demon. And we see him walk past the Tesseract in the throne room. My wife and I debated about this after the movie. She thinks that he left the Tesseract, but I'm like, he can't leave the Tesseract because then Thanos can't have all the Infinity Stones.
Right.
If the Tesseract gets destroyed.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, because the Tesseract, what would it be? By the way, spoilers, in the thing where we're talking about spoilers, Asgard gets destroyed by the big thing. And they escape from Asgard with all of the people from Asgard. How did they fit a city that is of millions of people onto that ship?
It's a big ship.
It wasn't that big.
A lot of people got killed, too.
That's true, but...
You know, the little Resistance trying to fight Hela.
You see it from a distance. Asgard is gigantic. It's like a giant metropolis kind of city. But okay.
Sci-fi movie.
Sci-fi
Fantasy movie. Come on.
Well, yeah, whatever. Suspension of disbelief. It's fine. Then at the end of the movie, they kind of are flying off into the cosmos, and they're like, the Asgard is a people, and
yeah, it's a people, not
we're
a
a nomad
place.
race now.
So I guess
they say they're going to Earth, and then
yeah, because they ask Thor, who's their new king, you know, well, where do we go now? And he's like, let's go to Earth. They'll love you guys. And he's like, oh, maybe not him, pointing to Loki. And he's like, but they'll love you guys. So I guess that means
as they're flying through the void, though, something gets it a little bit in their way.
Something
what was that
massive
ship?
Gets in their way.
Was that Thanos' ship?
I'm 98% sure that that's Thanos' ship. Because the next time we see Thor and all them is Infinity War.
Infinity War, right.
Which is actually like right around the corner. It's next May, so...
And then credits roll, and
Credits roll.
then you see a scene with Jeff Goldblum's character, the
The
Grandmaster.
Grandmaster. I was gonna say we got the serious mid-credit scene, and then we got the fun end credit scene.
He's fine, though, right?
Yeah.
He didn't die. Yeah, no.
He didn't die. I'm sure the trash digger people are too stupid to
Right.
do anything about it.
So he's going to be back and probably in charge of another large group of people eventually in the Marvel
Probably.
canon. And that is Thor 3 Ragnarok.
Thor 3 Ragnarok.
This is definitely within my top 3 Marvel films.
Yeah, for sure.
So, thank you very much for listening. If you've made it all the way through this way, this has been Puyallup Popcorn Picks, Post Popcorn Picks. This has been Post Popcorn Picks. There we go. Thanks for listening. Next time we're going to be watching another movie. I don't know which one yet. Bye.